speculative about
Thank you for coming.
what
Oh,
AI
of
Right
course.
here. What's your name again?
Courtney.
Steve. Yeah, I know. I
Steve.
just hung out with you a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Everybody, thank you for being here. This is very cool. We're going to talk about resilience, and I'm going to talk about it from an Accenture perspective because I'm an employee of Accenture for 20 years. And for the last 10, all I've really thought about was this idea of resilience. And that tree is intended to represent resilience and somehow found a way to make it work even when it wasn't ideal conditions. And that's kind of the idea. The idea is to be able to withstand any negative disruption. And that is what we mean by resilience. And the term that I actually am going to be using a lot is something called full scope resilience, because the word resilience can apply to a lot of things. In my field of work, cybersecurity, we talk about cyber resilience, which is the ability to fight back through a major hack and restore your network or whatever. So that's cyber resilience. We might have economic resilience, disaster resilience. When I say resilience and I say full scope resilience, it is intended to capture anything that could possibly go wrong for an organization or a community. And I'll get into some details, but this would include things like supply chain disruptions, disaster, cyber, financial, human capital, a complete and total holistic approach. And we do that using a partner organization's artificial intelligence algorithm, which goes out and scans the whole web, the deep, the dark parts, the things that we don't usually look at ourselves. It goes out and it gathers up the information and it brings it back, and through AI and machine learning, it crunches that information and it produces actionable items that says, for example, hey, major power company, in my area, the major power company is called BGE, Baltimore Gas and Electric. And there's another one called Pepco. And there's a power in a utility company called Washington Gas. So a company like that could point this algorithm at their organization, and it could bring back information that says you might be under a cyber attack, or perhaps the video monitoring cameras that you use at your facilities are known to be compromised somewhere down the line in the supply chain, and they have been feeding the information back to a different country. Every single video that's captured is going back to China. That's the thing. So what we want to do, and the idea is that if, in my field, I've been 20 years doing cybersecurity, it's great to look at cybersecurity, but one of the things that me and the person that invented this algorithm years ago came to terms with is that that's not enough, because your cybersecurity might have a tie into this supply chain example I just gave. If the cameras that are watching over your data center are able to be faked out by somebody, well then I can literally walk right into the data center. I don't need to hack in, I can walk in if I can take care of the cameras. So there's a holistic approach to anything that could go wrong, understanding what could go wrong by looking at the open source intel, also called OSINT, O-S-I-N-T. That is what you can find for the algorithm. Coupling that with information from inside the organization, behind the firewall, actual inside information that the organization themselves would have, and AI sitting between the two to help make the connections and identify the actionable items. So that was the theory years ago that I started and I brought to my boss at Accenture and my mentor and somebody that is a champion for this. And that person told me to go forward and figure it out. And that's what I've been doing for a long time, and that's what we're talking about here today. And at this nonprofit conference is where we chose to roll this out for the first time, because the way that we came to work this was actually, instead of Accenture doing it all on our own, because it's such a broad concept, when I talk about disaster management, that's not really exactly what Accenture does. We need satellite data. If we're looking at flooding and weather events, I need NASA. So I needed all these different partners. And the way to make that work was to start a nonprofit, which is what this screen here is, really just the website of the nonprofit. The nonprofit itself is called Community Resilience Cooperative, 501c3, started the normal way. You submit the application to the IRS, you submit a statement of purpose to the IRS when you start a 501c3. And the statement of purpose for Community Resilience Cooperative was to increase the resiliency of communities and organizations against natural and man-made disasters, including cyber attacks, period, sentence one. Then I added a second sentence that says, and to assist those experiencing homelessness, just because I wanted to add that. It's my thing, and that's what I like to do, and that's my thing. So that's my little nonprofit, and we have a board, just like any nonprofit does, and it's a normal 501c3 that's partnering with Accenture Plus NASA. I mentioned NASA and satellite data. hopefully great institutions, some of whom might be here in the room today, sitting right there. Their name might rhyme with Rinston. I don't know. I'm not saying we're properly partnered up with the organization that rhymes with Rinston, but if we were, that would be awesome. Aaron. Not using your real name, by the way. So that is one of the potential partners. Some of the partners that we already have worked on is a school called, and I can't say this one, is a school called UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, which is a great school. And they have a specific organization within that school called the UMBC Training Centers, which is expert in deep and immersive learning experiences. And because we want to do a couple things, we want to help to understand the risks, and then we want to help to have the people who are responsible for responding to the risks be better at it and be prepared for it. And then we also even want to give actual technology that can help those very people to do what they need to do. And that's where this comes in. The name we're giving it for now, for today, is called Rescue View, which stands for Resilience, Collaboration, User Environment. It's an AI and AR solution, augmented reality coupled with artificial intelligence, that will allow people in a command center, think about an emergency operations center. If there's a big hurricane, the governor of a given state and the people, the lieutenants would all get in there, and emergency management director, and start thinking through, how are we going to handle this? Where do we send our trucks? Who gets the relief first? What parts of the power grid are most at risk? So it might be a governmental response. It might be the command center for a critical infrastructure provider, like those companies I was talking about, Pepco in my area. What's the power company out in Chicago here called?
ComEd.
ComEd, C-O-M, or Con?
Com, like
ComEd.
Commonwealth Edison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing about the power grid is that it's all connected. So it's real nice that ComEd probably does an exercise every year where they think through what would happen and how would we respond if we were under attack from a nation state, cyber attack. And they do, and they all do, all the power companies do, but it's very isolated. They consider it from their own perspective, but that isn't good enough. And that's what we started to realize years ago and why we're doing this, because what we were ultimately trying to do here is build a composite data model of what it would look like if something big went down, we'll call it a disaster, man-made or natural, doesn't matter, and what are the implications across the critical infrastructure that have implications for people's lives. So this is all about community resilience cooperative, like I said, increasing the resiliency of communities and organizations. But I can't do that alone as a small nonprofit. That's why I stay with my employer of 20 years. I love Accenture. Accenture has great AI, best, better than Watson, just to be clear. Better than Watson. Our AI platform is something called Applied Insights Platform. And so I want access to that. And through my mentor, who's awesome, he said, I told him this. I went to him and I said, I want to do this thing. It's kind of unwieldy and strange, and it's not just cyber resilience or financial resilience, these practice areas that Accenture has. It crosses so many, and I need so many different partners in the ecosystem that I kind of have to figure out the third way, and hence the nonprofit. But Rescue View would be the capability to see all this information integrated in an augmented reality goggle in front of your face. And I have a demo. I can show you. Anybody that wants to wear the goggles after, great. And see yourself in an actual command center environment. I'll start to take you through this, some of the images here. The first one I wanted to show you, though, before we get into the command center, is this right here. This is from a partner company. The guy who invented this is a brilliant data scientist guru. He was recruited by the NSA when he was 15 years old as a hacker. He was a bad boy, and then he became a good guy. And then in the 90s, he ran President Clinton's Cyber Manhattan Project, which was our country's first attempt to get very serious about this serious topic of cyber warfare. And so he's brilliant, and he's my good friend. And when he first told me about this in 2009, it's really all I could think about, because I had been in cyber, but then he said, hey, cyber is one of these 10 dimensions here. I don't know if you can see them, it's okay if you can't. Cyber is one of them. Another one is disaster management, financial stability, legal and regulatory, strategy and culture, supply chain, like I gave the examples of the camera. So if you're interested in cybersecurity and having an organization be resilient, being able to withstand any bad thing that could happen, any bad thing, you got to look at all the bad things that could happen. And so that's what his AI algorithm does. His company is called Resilient Corp, and they're important, and that's why I'm showing you this little example here. But one of the things that we realized is that we could take his data. I told him this years ago, my good friend. I said, so he sells the data. He makes the data available on the GSA schedule. So organizations and companies can buy the data. Say you're an insurer, Lloyd's of London, you could buy the data and say, what do I need to charge Target Corporation for insurance? And using the data, you can say, Target, I need to charge you an extra $1 billion because your supply chain is crap and you've got cameras that are infiltrated by the Chinese government. Shame on you, get that right, or we're going to charge you more. So an insurer could use his data to drive decisions. That's an actual example, not Target. Target was hacked. Target was hacked. Y'all remember the Target hack years ago? Through their HVAC system, through their air conditioning. No kidding. And I could probably have some friends of mine come into your own personal networks through your smart refrigerator if you have one, or whatever. Everything is connected. And with the Internet of Things, IoT, it's just increasing exponentially. Everything is, well, the industrial control systems, ICS, that run the grid, with the risk of sounding like an alarmist, they're pretty much not our own. They're owned by others in a lot of cases. Not all cases, but too many times, the industrial control system's passwords are sort of the default password. Way too many times. Anytime there's an audit, you'll see that. There's a high percentage, an alarmingly high percentage of the passwords that are totally guessable. They might be password like with an O instead of, a 0 instead of an O, or something ridiculous. So it doesn't even take that much to get in and do the bad things. The question is, what's the worst thing that someone could do if they had the inclination and the capability? And the answer to that is what we'll call the single kill shot, the most devastating singular attack that someone could execute to hurt our country and people bad as possible in one attack, rather than doing a whole bunch of little piddly attacks, the one big bad one. And so I really wanted to figure out, through a data model, a composite data model, what that would be. What is the worst singular thing that an enemy could do? And the way to do that is to engage the different critical infrastructure providers, one after another. BG&E, you're invited to do a deep immersive simulation. UMBC Training Centers is putting it on. You will spend 2 days and 2 nights engaged in a true role-playing, deep immersion, real deal. Nobody's checking their email. We actually are going to invite them to an off-site remote location where it's just out of their element. And it's simulating for the people that would be in the command center, 6 of them usually. Maybe let's say the chief operations officer, chief risk officer, chief technology officer, chief public relations officer. This is who would assemble when we're under a cyber attack. This is who gets in the room. Decisions have to be made. We're going to simulate, this is called D-Day Simulator, simulate what it would be like. If you remember the old books that were around, the Choose Your Own Adventure books, I'm not sure if you've ever seen one of those, and they were like made of something on paper and everything, and they were like, you would flip to page 48. Kaiwa's my friend, she's amazing. Kaiwa's on the team. So we've got a lot of members on the team. We've got people that have massive amounts of experience. We've got people that are just part of the team that are interested because it's something that they want to do for the good of whoever would be these impacted people from these bad things that could happen. So we get BG&E to come, and then we get Pepco, and then we get ComEd, and then we get Potomac Edison, and Washington Gas, and the water company, and the hospitals, and every single additional organization that comes and plays the war game, or the D-Day simulator, gives us more information that feeds into the composite data model. That data model, in the right hands, allows us to shut down that singular avenue of attack that could do the worst damage. In the wrong hands, it tells them exactly what to do. So we got to give it to the good guys, hopefully DHS, FEMA, CDC, because we're looking at all those things. We're looking at critical infrastructure. We're thinking pandemic flu. We're getting data from satellites from one of the partner organizations that I've told Alex about, which is a group called, I'm going to name them here because I'm very comfortable that we're going to be working with them directly. It's a group that was founded to help with the Apollo space program. In fact, I think I have a little bit of information here about them. It's called the Universities Space Research Association. They've been around since Apollo, and they are the PhD granting universities, 118 members, that are tapped by the government to help think through the hardest problems. Things like spatial, things like astrophysics. These are scientists in the truest sense. rocket scientists in many cases, and they have a specific initiative called the Earth from Space Initiative. It's about satellite data. So what you're seeing here is just a river. This is before the flooding, and this is after. It's satellite data. It's like Google Earth. Google Earth is important. I'll get into in a few minutes the Resilience Operations Center that we want to utilize this data in, and you'll understand why we need satellite data to do proper real-time response too. But an organization like that is an example of the type of partner in our ecosystem that has something to bring to the table, has an interest in it. This Earth from Space Initiative, their whole purpose is to, actually it's the same thing, to increase resiliency. It's beautiful. They're just a very good complementary team member. And so we're going to get data from a bunch of places to inform this simulation so that when PEPCO comes, it's real for them. Accenture's got hundreds of people working at PEPCO. They're what's called a diamond client for our company. They're huge clients. So same with BG&E, hundreds of people. So we know a lot about them from the inside. We couple that with the data from the outside, mush it together with the AI, with our Better Than Watson AI platform, and then we play a game. So for 2 days, the first night they show up at this off-site location, like out in the, not in the city, but kind of where it feels. It's in the mountains, actually, but not too far from DC. And the first night we have a quick dinner and we say, hey, this is how it's going to be for 2 days. It's going to be deep immersion. That's how UMBC Training Center rolls. We're going to make you feel like it's real. After this dinner is over, whenever it starts, it starts. There's going to be people on the video screens from back at your office role-playing a role. There's going to be people simulating, hey, I'm the DHS representative. None of it's real. Don't call home and tell your family to get out of Dodge. Everything is not happening for real, but everybody's role-playing. And then we wake them up in the middle of the night, literally, on the first night. And then they get to work through the night because we want to induce that stress, because that's what it's like when you're working. I mean, when you're under a cyber attack, you work through the night. That's it. That's how it is. You're stressed, and we want to make that so real, so that their choosing of their own adventure is as real as possible for them. Because if it's real for BGE, and then it's real for PEPCO, and then it's real for ComEd, and then we take that data and bring it together, then we really know a lot that is valuable. Okay, I want to scroll up a little bit because that's one thing where we are going to do the simulation, and then if, hey, in the simulation they realized 6 million people perished because we sent our trucks to this node of the grid instead of that node of the grid. Or a different example might be in public relations officer's world. I sent out a press release as the public relations officer. I chose to send a press release that was accurate and indicated to anybody who got it, hey look, the grid in our region is going to be down for 6 weeks. This is how long it's going to take to repair the grid. That could cause as much panic and problems as the actual grid situation. So maybe we don't want to send that. I'm just making examples of lessons that could be learned from the simulation and choices that could be made differently in the real world if it happened. So Accenture can certainly come and help fix technical issues and process issues. Say their load balancers fail, technical matter that is a reality in a situation like that. Accenture can go and fix the load balancers. That's part of what Accenture will do after this for our clients. But beyond going and fixing the things that were identified, we also want to be able to provide an ongoing monitoring capability using that same data, friend's algorithm, from a facility. And actually the facility at this point is looking like it's going to be in Columbia, Maryland at the USRA, United Space Research Association's building. They got 40,000 square feet. I'm in conversation with them about building that just right. They were going to do it anyway. In fact, they were going to build it for their own purposes, and they were going to be using their satellite data and information to look at things they wanted to look at. But they're mostly focused on flooding and things like that right now, weather events. We're just hopefully we're going to team together and expand that just enough to include my other stuff, and then we're off to the races. That picture right there, I realize it's hard to see, that is a virtual sock or a virtual rock. Now let me tell you what that entails. It's also pictured here. Well, a SOC from my world, a Security Operations Center, or an EOC, if any of you have ever been in a command center for the fire department, and yeah, right, you have that background, Greg, of course.
Disaster Operations Center's not the EOCs.
Yep, SOC, DOC, EOC. Well, I'm going to have it be a ROC, ROC. Full Scope Resilience Operations Center. Everything, anything. Not just those, because right now they're a little bit separate and disjointed. So if you have this space and it's a ROC, then you're looking at everything and you're able to respond to anything. But what if you can't get into the building? Because Columbia, Maryland is about 20 miles outside of DC. So there's certain scenarios where the building might be unsafe, and you could think of them. What if you needed to have a failover facility? Well, That's fine. You can have a failover facility like in the mountains of West Virginia. That's cool. But what if even that, for some reason, is inaccessible? People can't get there timely. This is where the idea came forward for a virtual rock. And I actually can show you a quick video of what that could look like or what it looks like. This is the virtual rock. I don't know if this thing will play on a loop, or I guess I'll reset it here. And what it is, if you can imagine that there's usually like 6 people that would be in a security operations center. A security operations center looks like this. It's a bunch of people at desks, analysts with, we call them things with blinky things. Those are the screens there. And when the blinky thing starts blinking red, that's like you got to say, help, I don't know how to fix that. We're under attack. It's usually a reverse engineering malware. So you have people in the rock that are monitoring, but then you have somebody who's like the expert in malware reverse engineering. You have somebody else who's an expert in log management, firewall person. So you have these certain skill sets. Say there's 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. We're the team that needs to be in the room, and we need to co-locate because the log person needs to talk to the malware person because they're interrelated. But if you can't get together in a room, what you can do is walk to your bedroom drawer, take out your set of Oculus goggles, put them on, and virtually co-locate. And that's what this is right here. Let me just give this a little play. All it is showing is that we can be together looking at the information that's in this room. Each of those screens in the back that you can see there, you could click on to drill down. This is a little example of a whiteboard. You can write on it. You can keep, this is what's called a Kanban board, which is for those within IT development, you know, it's what you got to do and what's going on. This is just maps, just the basic things that you would have in a command center. And you can be there together. You can see a virtual avatar of your other person. And you can make these decisions looking at the same thing. Oftentimes, a lot of times in a resilience operations center or a SOC or an EOC or a DOC, you're looking at screens. So there's your threat intelligence, news and weather, and just other information. This one's disaster response, so you can see things like, this is probably an easier picture to see. This is a picture of the ongoing wildfires right now. And this right here, I'm going to give a mention to another one of our important partner organizations, which is called eData 9/11. This screen right here is an indication of where the given emergency vehicles are. You can see there's, you come up later and you see where the helicopters are, where the fire trucks are, and in real time, it's called a mass casualty incident tracker. That's what they invented. It's great. This type of imagery right here comes from another partner organization called Element 84. Element 84 is a company that utilizes satellite data to track the fire. So they were actually helping to evacuate people and animals in the Camp Fire. Remember how the recent California wildfires? So using all kinds of data about where the wind is blowing and where the fire line is moving, they're saying, look, the first priority is you got to evacuate this neighborhood right here because it's coming. It's not there yet, but in 6 hours, watch out. So that's the kind of information that from a rock you would, and this was developed by Hunter Strategy, one of the other partner companies. I told you we had to do a lot of bringing together of people with diverse capabilities. And well, the time is nearly up. So I've got 5 minutes left. So I just want to say thank you for being here first. And then second, I would like to take your questions, and I'm happy to. I just want to quickly flip back and make sure I didn't miss anything material that I need to make sure to cover. UMBC, we covered that. I just want to tell you what this picture is. I love this situation because it shows exactly what, this is one of the things that totally inspired me to cut the crap and get this done. Because I've been working on it for years and planning it and making all these relationships. This is a picture of a flood in my hometown of Ellicott City, Maryland. It's a historic town in Maryland. And this is a deadly flash flood that came out of nowhere. The cloud just stopped at the top of a street that goes downhill and dropped 10 inches of rain. And these people are just normal citizens that, in this case, rescued this particular young lady, human chain style, and it was, other people died. And it happened again to Ellicott City in Howard County, Maryland. Again, it happened a year later. It was national news because Ellicott City is kind of a famous old town place. And so this is an example of what we're trying to do. We're linking together, working together all these disparate organizations and trying to save some people. So with that, happy to take your questions. And again, thanks for coming. I know we only have a couple minutes, so I'll stick around. Anybody wants to wear the goggles and look at the virtual rock, happy to do that with you as well. All right. Why don't we just skip the questions? How about that? And then we'll talk individually. So thank you very much.
Thank you.